No one noticed at first when Earth went quiet. It was just one missing voice in a room full of noise. The Galactic Council had thousands of members, planets, species, machines, even ancient digital minds. But Earth had always spoken loudest. And now, silence. Some called it peace. Some said, finally, we can move forward without their chaos. For years, many in the Council had blamed humans for everything. Technology leaps, unpredictable behavior, too fast, too aggressive, too different. So they voted. They removed Earth. No war, no shouting, just exile. That the humans didn't resist. They didn't argue. They simply turned off their communications. One by one, every channel from Earth went dark. No trade, no answers, not even a farewell. The galaxy cheered. For a while, but something felt wrong. It started small. A deep space relay station blinked offline. Then two more. A mining outpost near the edge of the Dorothy Belt stopped sending shipments. Pirates attacked trade routes that were once protected by humans. Patrol A's built long ago in partnership with Earth began shutting down. No warnings, just silence. A Valari diplomat tried to send a message to Earth. Maybe, he said, we were too harsh. We need their support on the outer rim. The message was received, but no reply came. Weeks passed, then months. Old human allies, the CERN, the Makari, even the logical Dravri, began to worry. Earth wasn't just quiet, it was absent, empty, but sensors showed activity. Satellites still moved, some strange patterns in the Sol system's energy signatures. Something was happening, but no one knew what. One night cycle, a young Yilari comms officer stared at a screen. An old frequency once used for council messages briefly lit up. Just one phrase came through before the screen went black. You chose this. It spread fast. The council dismissed it at first. A prank, a trick, nothing serious. But the fear grew, because the words weren't threatening. They were final. Like the galaxy had reached a point of no return. Some began to whisper stories. That Earth had not vanished, but changed. That they were working in silence, building something. No one had seen a human ship in over a year, but everyone remembered what those ships could do, what human tech could build, what human minds could imagine when pushed too far. The council held a secret meeting. The senior members looked worried for the first time in a long while. They didn't want to admit it, but Earth had been a stabilizing force. Their tech powered many systems. Their networks helped keep the AI clean and safe. Their trade routes, their defenses, their ideas, everything had spread, quietly holding things together. Without them, cracks were appearing. A request was made. Send a small team to check on Earth. No weapons, just a diplomatic visit. A simple call to say, we want to talk. The team never returned. No distress call, no signal, no wreckage. Just silence. The council's fear turned into panic, but they couldn't show it. They made public statements about stability and exploring new opportunities. Behind closed doors, they asked the same question again and again. What is Earth doing? No one had the answer. But in the dark corners of the galaxy, a quiet truth was spreading. The humans hadn't left. They had simply stopped speaking. And in that silence, the galaxy began to hear something far more dangerous than noise. Regret. Asterisk. The stars still looked the same, but something had changed. Across the galaxy, ships moved slower, trade routes grew colder, and voices that once filled the comm channels had gone quiet. Without Earth, things were falling apart, but no one wanted to admit it yet. Pride was a heavy thing in the council, and regret, even heavier. It began on the outer rim. A small station orbiting a gas giant station, Ralnan vanished from every chart. Not destroyed, just gone. Its signal blinked out during a routine check-in. No explosion, no call for help, no trace left behind. Patrol ships searched the sector. For days, what they found was strange, a glowing pattern carved into the clouds of the gas giant itself. It wasn't made by a natural storm, and it wasn't alien writing, at least not any known kind. But one diplomat recognized the shape, a human symbol, old, from Earth's ancient history. A symbol that meant, watching. The news spread quickly, but no one made it official. Instead, the council turned its focus inward. Internal systems were failing. Trade networks were slowing. Key AI clusters that once relied on Earth-based coding were showing strange behavior. One AI, designed to predict asteroid movements, began repeating a single sentence: "They left because you told them to." No one understood what that meant. Not at first. But then the bigger failures started. The starport at Linthos Prime shut down without cause. Their energy grid had been upgraded with Earth's tech just 4 years ago. Now it refused to respond to any commands, as if it no longer recognized its masters. Worse still, the backup systems designed by Council engineers couldn't take over. Earth's code had become the foundation, and now it was fading. A few brave voices in the Council began to say what others feared. They needed Earth back, not for peace, not for pride, but for survival. Quiet requests were made. Messages were sent in secret, asking for contact, forgiveness, anything. None were returned. It wasn't that Earth was ignoring them. It felt like Earth had moved on. Ships, once built with Earth's help, had begun to fail. Their materials, once strengthened by human nanoalloys, now seemed to weaken without warning. The colonies that once traded heavily with Earth were the first to feel hunger. Medicine shortages, power rationing, civil unrest, and still, Earth said nothing. The Council held a private meeting under emergency protocol. No recordings, no archives, just silence and fear. A retired ambassador named Malar, one of the few who had spent time on Earth, finally spoke. "You never understood humans. You thought they needed us. But it was us who depended on them. Not their weapons, not their fleets, their presence. The fear of what they might do was enough to keep the peace. The hope of what they might create kept us pushing forward. Without them, the balance is broken." No one interrupted him, because deep down, they all felt it. The humans hadn't raised a single hand. They hadn't fired a single weapon. But their silence was louder than any threat. It wasn't anger. It was absence. And the galaxy was beginning to realize that absence can be worse than conflict. In the markets, Earth-made items were now priceless. Even the smallest tool with a human signature was considered valuable because no more were coming. Entire research labs had shut down, unable to repair human-coded software. Some scientists began studying old Earth history, searching for forgotten knowledge, like pilgrims chasing lost truth. But knowledge wasn't enough. The systems were still failing, and something strange was happening near Seltha human home system. Long-range sensors had picked up movement, not ships, not stations, but energy patterns. Enormous fields of unknown technology forming around the solar system, too organized to be natural, but too advanced to decode. Ships sent to observe turned around before reaching the edge. Their systems reported no damage, but the crew refused to speak about what they saw. One captain simply said, "We weren't meant to be there anymore." That one sentence reached every council member within a day. For centuries, the council had believed they were the center of the galaxy's future. But now, they saw something else. Earth had not just stepped away, they had stepped above. And if the galaxy wanted to survive, it had to ask itself one question: how do you call back something that no longer needs you? Asterisk. The message arrived at dawn on the central world of the Velari sector. A single line of text, delivered through a private, obsolete channel that hadn't been used in decades. No source, no encryption, just 7 simple words glowing cold across the ambassador's screen. "You erased us. Now we erase memory." The ambassador stared at it for a long time. He tried to forward the message. The system froze. He tried to copy it. The text vanished. Only one trace remained: a mild scent of ozone in the air, and a silent alarm flashing behind his eyes. This was never supposed to happen. Across the galaxy, systems began to forget. Archives once filled with human data engineering blueprints, navigation formulas, old treaties went blank. Not deleted, erased, as if the data had never been there at all. Backup servers failed. Even hard copies, printed and stored in protected vaults, turned to static. Words crumbled off the page. Images blurred into nonsense. It was quiet, clean, and terrifying. No explosions, no signs of sabotage. Just memory, vanishing like a dream the moment you wake. The council gathered again, not in grand halls, but in private chambers, quiet, off-record meetings. They whispered now, no longer proud. The phrase repeated in every conversation: "We made a mistake." But admitting it was not enough, because the forgetting wasn't random. It began with tech. Old Earth-designed gravity stabilizers, ship engines, Deep core miners, all systems using human logic started to malfunction. Then came the loss of language. A few translators noticed they could no longer remember certain Earth terms. Words like resilience, hope, reckoning, not just lost in translation, but erased from thought. When they tried to speak them, their tongues stalled, their minds blanked. The words had been removed. Then came the worst part. People, those who had lived on Earth, who had studied there, who had loved there, they started to fade. Accenture historian, once an expert on Earth's diplomatic traditions, woke up one morning unable to recall a single detail. His books were gone, his files corrupted, his memories missing. He collapsed in a council chamber, repeating one sentence. Was Earth ever real? Across star systems, similar stories surfaced. A Makari trader who spent years in human colonies could no longer draw their map. A Drenari technician swore he worked on Earth ships, but when asked to explain the interface, he could only whisper, "I don't know what I touched." Panic grew. The council tried to act. Emergency missions were launched towards Sol system. Ships filled with diplomats, scientists, even artists, anyone who had a connection to Earth. They thought if they could reach it, maybe they could understand. Maybe they could stop whatever was happening. None of the ships came back. The last, one Starfire Dawn, managed to send a short visual before it disappeared. A single image, a vast structure orbiting Neptune. Not a ship, not a station, something else. It was dark, silent, and completely smooth, like a wall of pure night wrapped around a sun. And on its surface, etched in soft white glow, were the words, "Return is not needed. Learn to stand alone." No one knew what it meant, but every language in the galaxy translated it the same way. Earth had moved beyond them, not in war, not in anger, but in choice. They were not striking back. They were simply removing themselves, and taking every part of themselves with them. The galaxy had wanted them gone, and now they were truly gone. Not just physically, but in thought, in systems, in memory. And that was the most terrifying part. Because if Earth could remove itself so completely from the galaxy's mind, what else could they erase? A young researcher on Orvan Prime discovered a hidden pattern in the data loss. It wasn't random. It was targeted. Earth had built secret systems into the galaxy's infrastructure deep within code, architecture, and even language. Invisible seeds, waiting for activation. Now they were blooming. The researcher tried to warn the council, but before he could finish his report, his lab vanished in a flash of white light, not destroyed, just replaced by empty space. The council never mentioned it publicly, but from that moment on, no one slept easily, because now they knew. Earth wasn't forgetting them. Earth was teaching them what it felt like to be forgotten. Asterisk. The deep space station floating beyond the edge of the Tyrene Reach had picked up something unusual. A moving object, massive and slow, was gliding through empty space without any signal. Engine signature, or ID. It didn't match any known vessel. No registration, no pattern, no sound, just motion. Smooth and silent. The station's commander, an old veteran named Tralith, ordered the scanners to focus. What they saw next changed everything. The object wasn't a ship. It wasn't a rock or station either. It was something new, shaped like a curved wing, dark as space itself, and surrounded by a glowing haze that made sensors flicker and fail. As the object drifted closer, static poured into the comms. Not loud, but strange, like whispers. Not in a known language, but something deeper, almost like memory trying to speak. Then the lights dimmed. Every console in the station shut off. For exactly 7 seconds, when power returned, a single phrase glowed on every screen. "You wanted us silent. Now silence comes." And just like that, the object disappeared. The footage made its way to the council within hours. Scientists debated whether it was a probe or a weapon. Strategists thought it might be human technologists, something never shared. Diplomats refused to speak, but deep down they all knew what it meant. Earth wasn't gone. Earth had changed, and something from humanity was now watching. In the weeks that followed, more of these objects appeared in different regions of the galaxy. Never more than one at a time. Always silent. Always unexplained. They would come, float for a day or two, then vanish without a trace. Every time, they left behind signs. Sometimes a message, sometimes a small change in gravity, sometimes just a memory wiped clean, an entire species forgetting a piece of their own history. On one planet, the native people lost all knowledge of writing, not burned books, not broken machines, just ... gone. No one could remember how symbols worked. They could speak, they could listen, but letters, words on a screen, erased like dust in wind. The council tried to contain the panic, but rumors moved. Faster than truth, across the stars, people began calling the objects echoes. Echoes of Earth, echoes of what was once trusted, now returning in silence. One brave explorer, Captain Rylan of the independent ship Stellar Note, decided to follow an echo. She tracked it beyond the boundaries of council space, to a region of cold and darkness with no stars, just a distant blue glow pulsing like a heartbeat. What she found there, she never fully described. That her transmission was broken, full of static and emotion. She didn't sound scared. She sounded ... amazed. They've built something, she whispered. Not just machines, not ships. Something ... alive. Something beyond logic. It's watching us like we watched them. It's not revenge. It's a lesson, a mirror, and we're not ready. That was her final message. Her ship never returned. After that, even the most skeptical members of the council began to change their tone. They stopped speaking about humans as the problem and started using new words: unknown, evolved, ascended. But it was too late. The shift had already happened. The echoes kept coming. One appeared above the council's homeworld, just hovered in the upper orbit, completely still. It made no move, no message. But during its time there, every system linked to Earth origin tech slowed down by 60%. Power grids flickered, climate controls glitched, communication lines filled with static ... and then it left. A day later, Earth-based languages used in diplomatic channels, research documents, technical systems became unreadable. The letters remained, but their meaning was gone. As if the galaxy's ability to understand them had been wiped clean. People started to fear that humanity hadn't left the galaxy at all. They had simply become something the galaxy no longer understood. That the council held one final vote, a decision to send a direct transmission to Earth, with no demands, no politics, just a question: what do you want us to do? The message was sent. For 3 days, there was no reply. Then, without warning, a new symbol appeared across every major council world, not written in text, not transmitted in signal, just appearing on walls, in the sky, in dreams, always the same dot. It was a human hand, open, facing outward, not a warning, not a threat, a reminder. They had reached for the stars once, and were pushed away. Now they were reaching no more, and the galaxy finally began to understand what it had lost. It started with a pulse, a gentle ripple through subspace, barely noticed by the outer systems. It wasn't a wave of energy, nor a broadcast, just a shift like something vast had moved in the dark. Sensors picked it up in quiet corners of the galaxy. Deep space research posts, forgotten colonies, abandoned old human tech, silent for years, blinked back to life for just a moment, then went dark again. Some dismissed it as a malfunction, but those who remembered Earth's quiet exit didn't believe in coincidence anymore. In the shadow of the stars, humanity had returned, but not as anyone expected. They came not in fleets, but in formations, silent, gliding through space with no engines, no fuel trails. Their ships did not look like war machines. They didn't look like ships at all. They were curved, seamless, strange, organic. Some moved like they were breathing. Others shimmered like they were made of thoughts instead of matter. The council's top scanners failed to read their structure. The energy signatures were unknown. The material was unidentifiable. And then, one appeared above Darenth Prime. It didn't speak. It didn't land. It just hovered. For 17 hours, nothing happened. Then all power on the planet cut out. Not destroyed, just paused. Lights, engines, gravity all stopped. No crashes, no panic, just stillness. For 17 minutes, everything froze. People didn't move. Machines didn't tick. Even the wind held its breath. When power returned, the sky held a message, not written in words, but drawn in light. You erased our place. We remembered yours. The panic that followed couldn't be hidden. Council officials tried to reassure the people. It's not an attack, they said. They are only sending a message. But no one could deny the truth was speaking again. Not through language, but through presence. And this time, they were not asking to be understood. They were showing what silence had built. all across the galaxy. More of these human constructs appeared. They hovered above planets that once benefited from Earth's help. Stations once built with human alloy began to shift, adapting to the same strange energy that powered the new ships. Earth had not just returned, they had evolved. People who once laughed at humans now stood in awe. A council scientist named Yorol, once known for criticizing Earth's reckless innovation, stood before one of the new vessels on the moon of Silis. He tried to scan it. His instruments failed. He tried to record it. His files corrupted. Finally, he reached out and touched the edge of the hull, and for a second he saw something. Not an image, but a feeling, a memory. He saw humans leaving the council chamber in silence. He saw them looking back only once. He felt what they felt, disappointment, not anger, pain, not revenge. Then the memory changed. He saw cities being rebuilt on Earth, not of metal and stone, but of energy and light. He saw humans walking among something higher, machines that moved like thoughts, learning systems that spoke in emotion. He saw Earth no longer as part of the galaxy, but as something beyond it. He collapsed in tears, not from fear, from understanding. Later he told the council, they didn't leave to punish us. They left to grow without us. And now, they've returned not to rejoin us, but to show us what we've become without them. No one had a reply. The most advanced fleets in the galaxy were placed on alert, not to engage, but to watch. No one dared attack, because no one knew if the ships could be harmed, or if harming them would change anything. They weren't threatening, but they were undeniable. One by one, the constructs began to leave gifts behind. Small objects, placed gently on the surface of select worlds. Smooth, silver discs that pulsed with a soft hum. Those brave enough to touch them experienced something personal. A memory, a lesson, a glimpse of what Earth had learned in exile. And always the same feeling followed. Peace, followed by regret. Humanity had not come to fight. They had come to teach through silence. They had come to remind. And with each appearance, each quiet sign, the message grew louder. You wanted a galaxy without us, so we became something else. Now, the galaxy was left to wonder, not what humans could do next, but what they had already become. It was the quiet that finally broke them, not the fear, not the ships, not even the fading memories of Earth. It was the growing stillness that wrapped around the galaxy like a cold wind, a stillness that made stars feel farther apart, and every world seemed just a little more alone. The council had once been the center of all civilization. Now, it barely held itself together. Entire networks had gone dark. Interstellar gates, once designed with human precision, now pulsed with strange errors, sometimes sending ships hours off course, sometimes never returning them at all. Trade had slowed to a crawl. Civilizations that once thrived under shared systems had begun to close their borders, and whispers had replaced wisdom. At first, the council tried to wait it out, but the wait became weight, and then came the final signal. It wasn't a message. It wasn't even transmitted. It appeared in every council archive, every private terminal, every learning device, all at once. One by one, every piece of human data the galaxy had once depended on faded away, completely not corrupted, not destroyed, quietly replaced with a soft blue screen and a single sentence. Our chapter in your history is complete. There was no name, no mark, but everyone knew who it came from. The silence that followed was not empty. It was final. One of the oldest members of the council, a being named Rushari, who had once argued fiercely for Earth's removal, stood in the Hall of Voices and said nothing for nearly an hour. Then finally, with the room frozen in stillness, he whispered, "They're not coming back, are they?" No one answered, because deep down, everyone knew the truth. Humanity had not only left the council, they had left the galaxy, but they hadn't done so in anger. They had done it in evolution. The constructs that once hovered silently above worlds had vanished. The strange ships were no longer seen. The gifts they left behind no longer glowed. The last known object, a vessel shaped like a sphere of light, drifted slowly into the galactic void and was never seen again. It left behind only one trail, a series of stars realigned into a pattern. Some thought it was coincidence. Others knew better. The shape was simple, but powerful. It resembled the Earth symbol for closed door, not locked, just not open anymore. In the days that followed, scholars from dozens of species tried to gather what remained of human knowledge. What little they could find now existed only in faint echoes in stories, in half-remembered ideas, in words that no longer had meaning. The most basic human concepts, will, spirit, home, could not be translated anymore. The language was still there, but the meaning had faded, like a dream already slipping away by morning. It was not erasure, it was detachment, and still, no one could find where humanity had gone. Not even the most advanced deep-range telescopes could detect signs of activity in Sol system. The planets were still there, but quiet, untouched, no movement, no response. Some suggested Earth was cloaked, hidden by technology beyond comprehension. Others believed they had moved to another dimension, or timeline, or place beyond matter. But none of that mattered now, because what haunted the galaxy most wasn't where humans had gone. It was the feeling that they had outgrown the galaxy altogether. No war, no goodbye, no revenge. Just a quiet decision to walk away. And in their absence, everything began to feel smaller. A child born on a far-off colony once asked her teacher, "Who were the humans?" The teacher hesitated. For a moment, the words would not come. Then she said, "They were the ones who dreamed so far ahead. They disappeared." The child nodded slowly, not fully understanding, but somewhere deep inside her where memories passed from old stars to new hearts, she felt it. The galaxy hadn't lost humanity. It had simply taught them they were never meant to be just a part of it. And now, every world carried the same unspoken thought. They asked humanity to leave, but no one ever imagined what it would feel like when they truly did.